Freeman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
8:37 on a Friday morning. Brian Neiman, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, and Shannon Bream is on the line from Fox News Channel, Washington correspondent, anchor of America's News headquarters on Sundays from noon to 2. You can check her out. Morning, Shannon.
Good morning, gang.
So, did you watch the debate last night?
I did, and you know what? I had an interesting experience because I watched it with a friend of mine who is a diehard Democrat and doesn't like any of the people. So it was an interesting way to watch it.
And what? How did he react to that?
Well, it was actually a female. And
sorry.
She's fascinated by it. She thinks everyone in the GOP field is such a character. She's very suspicious of Newt Gingrich.
Really?
Yes.
Well, first I got to ask you, what were you doing watching the debate with a Democrat? That can come to no good.
I knew that it would be interesting because when it's not somebody who's on that particular, primary group's home team, it's always interesting to me to hear what they think.
Would this person be willing to vote for a Republican, or are they definitely going to go for Obama?
Well, I will tell you, they voted for President Obama last time and are very disappointed. Yep. But I can't see this individual voting for Newt Gingrich, although she says she could vote for Mitt Romney.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm sure the Mitt Romney people love to hear that.
It's a good morning for them.
All right. Did anything stick out to you as being important last night? Any winners or losers that you saw?
You know what I thought was so interesting was the dust-up over Iran between Congresswoman Bachmann and Congressman Paul. I mean, I thought they got very heated. It's obviously his top central issue that people so associate with him is his foreign policy. And she just would not let it go last night. I think she's a very tenacious person. Obviously, she's a part of the Intelligence Committee, and she's got a lot of inside intel. But it's amazing that they both know and have access to the same information and yet arrive at such different results.
Yeah, the consensus is sort of that there were no knockout punches, no big gaffes, maybe the game didn't change. But Romney, I thought, dispensed with some of the peevishness he's shown of late under attack. Do you think he has enough to pull it over the line in Iowa?
Well, you know what's so funny? You all get the same things that we get, these multiple polls that are coming out each day now, and it's such a roller coaster. I mean, to get 2 polls or 3 polls on the same day and they all have different results, it shows you, it just seems how unsettled and undecided people are. So, he was asked the other day whether he expects to do how he did in 2008, which, of course, he famously finished second to Mike Huckabee, and he seemed like he was sort of trying to manage expectations, like, well, we've never really thought that we were going to be a runaway winner there, but we're hoping to do well, the standard language. So I don't think they have confidence that they're going to pull off a win there, but anything's possible. It just seems very unsettled at this point.
You cover the Supreme Court. You're a lawyer. You know this stuff pretty well. You're well connected in that legal world. Did you hear Newt Gingrich's comments last night on the possibility of shaking things up at the judiciary level, of saying, hey, we can always get rid of courts. We can force judges to testify in front of Congress and give us their thoughts on those things, impeach judges. He didn't seem to think it was that much of a radical idea. When Megyn Kelly was questioning him on it, she suggested that there were a lot of people, a lot of conservatives, who thought that would be a radical idea. I'm just wondering what you thought of that and how it would play out in the legal world.
Well, it sounded very much out of the box to me, just from where I'm coming from. I mean, there's a feeling in covering the court that they very much feel that they are a co-equal branch of government that doesn't take orders from Congress. They're having this fight right now over forcing cameras into the Supreme Court. They won't even budge on that. I cannot imagine the justices going along with being hauled in front of Congress to testify and them taking away lifetime terms for the Supreme Court. I know it's something that Rick Perry advocates as well, no more lifetime appointments for anybody. I thought it was a very interesting and far out plan by Newt Gingrich.
A big idea from Newt Gingrich, which is no big shock there.
Okay, as you look at the Supreme Court, it looks like there are going to be some huge cases decided in the coming year, which also happens to be an election year. Do you think that some of these huge cases that are pending out there could have an impact on thinking in this country about the judiciary?
Absolutely, because you have to think that about the same time in June, when the term ends, we're expecting to get a decision on both the president's health care law and on this controversial Arizona immigration law, which the DOJ or the administration is suing Arizona over. I mean, those are 2 really big issues that will fall right in the middle of this reelection run for the president. Some big decisions that they're going to have to defend. They may get a win or 2 if the court would which would be a huge boost in the midst of the re-election campaign. But at the same time, if they lose on those two issues, I think that whoever the GOP nominee is going to run with that. And, there are EPA regulation fights going on at the Supreme Court. There are so many things that are top issues that I think they'll get a lot of discussion on the campaign trail.
Now, on the Hill, Congress was able to avert a government shutdown, which we were pretty sure they were going to be able to do, but the negotiations continue about the payroll tax cut extension. It seemed like the ground might be softening on whether the Senate Democrats, or some of them, the in danger ones, could go for the Keystone Pipeline in exchange. What does it look like today, and are they negotiating through the weekend, or are they out of here?
Well, I would have to defer to some of my fantastic colleagues over there that Brian Wilson knows very well, Chad Pergram and Trish Turner. And what we're hearing from them is it really seems to change minute by minute. We'll get an update from them at 6 a.m., and by 8 a.m., the game has changed. Yeah. I think it's very possible they could be stuck here. That's what we're hearing from members anyway. Wow. Several of them are planning on that being a real possibility in staying. But we do continue to hear what sounds like to be softening on the Keystone issue. Though the president, he's drawn a line in the sand, saying that he's not going to sign anything that has the Keystone rider. I think that's where the big battle will happen, is if they get this passed and it lands on his desk at the White House.
Obama's lines in the sand, famously movable.
Yeah.
We'll see. Do you want to do something that looks as if, at least in public perception, it would cut off potentially 20,000 plus jobs right before the holidays when everybody's struggling?
He did say reject, not veto.
That's true.
Yeah.
And the parsing of the language in Washington is always the game.
Very important.
I have a procedural question. I don't know if any of you guys know this or not, but all right. So the State Department is holding this up, right? Does there have to be a bill that's passed for this to go forward, or can the State Department just acquiesce and say, all right, we're going to okay it and it can move forward? I mean, does there actually have to be a bill that says this pipeline can move forward?
Well, as you all probably know, I mean, there's already one environmental impact study, maybe others from the State Department that said there'll be minimal impact and it's good to go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's already happened. So the fact that we've got now a new launch of a new study after 3 years, I believe it was the longest study of any pipeline in U.S. history. The administration famously defers us back to the State Department every time there's a question about Keystone. The White House says, well, the president's not making that decision. It's a decision for the State Department. But seeing how they've already passed at least one environmental study, you would think if there's enough pressure on the Hill, the president's going to have to get more directly involved.
No, it's not a decision made at the State Department. It's a decision made at the White House.
And I think actually this idea that they actually wanted to make the stand, but ultimately wouldn't be too upset if they lost the issue, I think that's sort of what's going on here.
All right, Shannon, great to have you on as always. We appreciate your insights and your time.
You as well. Have a great